Okay, we're in volume 4 of the Bible story, volume 4, fourth book, and we are at part 1, story 10, Brave, Beautiful Abigail. Okay, it must have been hard for David to find food for his 600 men. They could not forever live only on plants and berries they found in the woods, or even on the birds and wild animals they were able to shoot with their bows and arrows. Now and then they had to ask farmers for help. Of course they could have taken the food without asking for it, but that was not David's way. He was not a thief nor a highwayman. Always he remembered always yeah always he remembered that he had been anointed by the prophet of the Lord as the future king of Israel. One day he sent 10 of his men, his young men, to ask for food from a wealthy farmer named Nabal. This man owned 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, which was a lot of animals in those days. But he was mean as he was rich. But peace be both to thee, and peace be to thine house, and peace be unto all that thou hast, said the young men courteously, as they told Nabal what David wanted. But Nabal happened to be in a very bad mood. Who is David? He snarled. And who is the son of Jesse? There are so many masters nowadays that break away every man from his masters. Shall I take then my bread and water and my flesh that I have killed for my shearers to give it to me unto men who I know not whence they be? Not a loaf of bread, or a drop of water, or even a single kid would he give to David. And he sent the young men, away empty-handed. Now it was David's turn to be very angry. He had never met such meanness before, and couldn't take it. So he ordered 400 of his men to follow him to Nabal's farm, planning to punish the man for his rudeness and selfishness. But he did not need to get all stirred up. God was working things out for him as he always had before. It so happened that Nabal's wife was a very wise woman, besides being very beautiful and brave. When her servants told her how her husband had treated David's 10 messengers, she was much upset. The more and more so when she learned that David's men had long protected both her shepherds and her sheep. At once she wanted to do something to make things right. Without saying a word to Nabal, she made haste and took 200 loaves, 2 bottles of wine, and 5 sheep ready dressed, and 5 measures of parched corn, and 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and laid them on, I don't want to say this word, but I'm going to put on donkeys. That she knew would seem a wonderful feast to men who had been living in the wilderness on wilderness rations for such a long time. Wise Abigail sent her servants ahead with the food-laden donkeys. This doesn't say donkeys. While she rode behind them. Perhaps she remembered how Jacob had once sent presents before him to appease his brother Esau. When she saw When she was part way down the hillside, she ran right up to David and his men. In a moment they surrounded her and her servants. The sight of all these fierce-looking men was enough to frighten anybody, certainly a lone woman, but not Abigail. She had expected something like this to happen, and was ready for it. Calmly she got off her donkey and bowed respectfully to David. Then she pointed to all the food and explained how this was a present she had brought for his young men. Anger melted away. Smiles broke out on the faces of those 400 men at the thought of a wonderful meal they would soon enjoy. And then, of course, it has an illustration of Abigail laying her donkeys with the food. And there it is. There's the little illustration. Okay. You know you can slow it down. Okay. And then we do have another, I might as well go ahead. We do have another painting by Herbert Rodin, and it's of Abigail being surrounded by the soldiers. And there's the painting. And the caption says, David blessed the Lord when Abigail, the wife of wicked Nabal, in return for protection for her husband's herd, brought food to David's 400 hungry men in the wilderness. So that was a pretty picture. She's all smiles. And let's get back to the story. Don't take any notice of my husband, she said to David. Nabal, and then it has parentheses full, is his name, and folly is with him. So Nabal meant fool, so he was a foolish man anyway. Then, very sweetly, she took all the blame for the misunderstanding upon herself. I pray thee, forgive the trespass of thine handmaid, she said. What could David do? His heart was touched. He couldn't go and punish this lovely woman's husband now. She was just too sweet and beautiful and very generous. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, he said to her, which sent thee this day to meet me. And blessed be thy advice, and blessed be thou, which has kept me this day from coming to shed blood. So he was really going to kill Nabal. Everybody was happy now. Eagerly the men took the food off the donkeys, it doesn't say donkeys, and with many thanks went back the way they came. Abigail returned home and finding her husband drunk, told him nothing about what she had done until the morning. When at last she broke the news to him, he was so shocked that he had a stroke and died a few days later. That's what it is. When the news of Nabal's death reached David, he said, Blessed be the Lord that, and then a pause, keep his servant from evil. For the Lord hath returned the wickedness of Nabal upon his own head. And David had taken a great fancy to Abigail, the brave woman who had dared come along to meet him when he was angry. So he sent messengers to invite her to come to live with him in the wilderness. Gladly she said yes and became his wife. Yeah, because I do remember David and Abigail. And so that's David's second wife. He had Abigail, and then now he has Abigail. And I do remember the Abigail. And then, of course, he had the others. All right, so that was part 1, story 10. Going to take break, a little break, and then we'll start on the next story. See you in a bit.